Hi, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us today. My name is Dustin Fleischman. I'm the Events and Operations Coordinator for the Writers Guild Foundation. Today, we are really excited to have Nikki Levy here. She's the head of scripted content over at DreamWorks TV. She's going to run through her session, Your Story is Your Superpower, Finding the Logline of You. If you have any questions, go ahead and direct them into our chat box. We'll be choosing some questions for the last few minutes of today's panel. This panel is going to be interactive, so if you want to participate in the interactive portions of our section, use the raise hand feature in the participants window. Whenever Nikki wants to call on people, she'll be using that feature to select random people. We'll be unmuting your microphones for that. So just when you're called on, we'll make your microphone active. And with that, Nikki, go ahead and take it away.
Okay. Hi, guys. Hi. Nice to meet you all. Wait, Dustin, can you do me a favor and tell me, how do I see like more people? Because I only see like 5 people on the top.
Sure.
How do I see like more than 5 people?
I think if you go into gallery view or grid view, if you hit show grid view or grid video, that should work.
Okay.
Once I disable screen share too, it'll show you more people.
Okay, great. Nope, still 6, but you 6 look awesome. So I was like, thank you, Mason, Sarah, Melissa, Desiree, and Maureen for looking foxy. Nice to, that's who I see right now. You could pull the deck down so I can see more people. Nice to meet you guys. I'm Nikki. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to see you guys. Oh, now I see so many of you. Okay, amazing. And there's like a young budding writer in Richard's iPad, which I love too. So I'm so happy to be here. I taught a WGA workshop for 10 or 12 people a few weeks ago, because we just didn't think that it was possible, honestly, to do this with so many people. But then I did it somewhere else for 100 people, and I was like, you know what, if we can do it with 10 people, we can do it for 214 people. So I'm really happy to be here. Thank you. And I encourage everyone, by the way, to get on video, because I did shower and I don't do that very often anymore. So I'm happy to see you guys. However, my hair's gray though, so it's not like everything's perfect, but I love seeing your faces. And, it's a class where we're going to talk a little bit about, or a lot of bit about, vulnerability. And so however you are feeling today and however you are today, no matter what, I just invite you to just come with your full selves. It's completely okay, however we're showing up today. I'm tired today, so that is my truth today. There is a poet that I love, and I want to kind of start the class off with. I don't like poetry. I just don't. But I really, really happen to like this one, and I'm gonna read just a little bit just to kick us off. You guys might recognize this one. I don't know. If I'm shining, everybody's gonna shine. I was born like this. Don't even gotta try. I'm like Chardonnay, get better over time. Heard you say I'm not the baddest bitch. You lied. It ain't my fault that I'm out here making news. I'm the pudding in the proof. Gotta blame it on my juice. Gotta blame it on my juice, baby. So that is the great poet Lizzo. Who here is a Lizzo fan? Fantastic. Oh, there's a lot of chats happening, by the way, that I'm probably not going to look at, just so you know. Don't take it personally, but I just want to get through our material. And if there's anything important, we'll hit questions at the end. So yeah, someone said Lizzo or Shakespeare. We don't know. Everybody copies off everybody else, but I will credit Lizzo because I love her. And what I love about this, and Dustin, if you can throw up the first card, that would be great. What this question and what this poem / what this song, it's called, it's Juice by Lizzo, who's an amazing singer and songwriter. It brings up the question of what's your juice? So what is your juice? When I ask that question, I mean, what makes you unique? What makes you different? What is something that, or more than something, many things that you find embarrassing or weird about yourself? What is something you hated about your childhood? What are the things that you guys, is someone having trouble hearing me? Okay. What are the things that you guys probably are not going to necessarily talk about on a first Tinder date or your first general meeting. You know, what are the things that define you but wish maybe didn't? And by the way, it doesn't even have to be all negative. There could be things about you that you think are great, but maybe you're just weird, or maybe you feel like, well, I don't really like to talk about that, you know, about myself, right? That's not a work thing. That's not a business thing. That's not a writer thing. I don't need to lead with that. Justin, if you can drop that slide, that would be great. I'm going to give you guys, and you can be thinking about these things as we talk, okay? So I'm going to just give you guys a quick overview of like kind of my story and why I love talking about and teaching, you know, your story is your superpower. I just want to take a quick thing. Can everybody hear me? Because I see some chats coming up about, you can. I'm just going to assume you can hear me unless Enid or Dustin tell me otherwise. So I'm going to give you guys a super brief history of my backstory so you know how I got to the place of feeling like and knowing actually that your story is your superpower. It's going to be what saves you. It's going to be your greatest asset. It might have before been a big handicap, but I promise you that's not going to be the case if we find a way to own it. So just so you know, I'm from Queens. I'm from New York. You know, nice Jewish girl from Queens, if that wasn't obvious by my schnoz. I went to school for screenwriting and filmmaking. Went to Northwestern. I moved back I moved back to New York, and I worked at the Oxygen Network when it was just starting. So it was like Oprah and Jerry Laybourne. It was really cool and really exciting, and it was right at the precipice of digital media. But I always knew I wanted to be either in casting or development. Very different, but I loved them both. And I moved out here to LA, and I got a job at the Endeavor mailroom, which is kind of like how so many people start, because agencies are like, they're like the vortex of hell, but also the vortex of this whole business, like it or not. And then I went and I said to myself, I want to find a mentor. And I think it's so important, by the way, to find a mentor. For me, I wanted to find someone who was successful enough so that I felt like I could learn from them and they were doing things and making things, but honestly sort of knew enough that they actually cared about mentoring somebody. And there I found my mentor, Allison Greenspan, 17 years ago. She ran Denise Denovi's company. They had a deal at Warner Brothers, made all of Tim Burton's movies, and she became my mentor and actually helped me get all my jobs and signed my wedding ketubah in August. So I'm a huge thing of find someone maybe who has stuff in common with you, and someone kind. And I can't say that enough. Find someone kind and find someone where you care. And I hope I'm not going to sound preachy, but to be honest, I don't really care, because I'll share just from my experience and what for me I have found to be helpful. Find someone that you want to give to. Find someone that you want to help, because I'm telling you, you help them and they will help you. But it is going to come. I was her assistant, dude. I was like the best fucking assistant ever. I found her earring in the bathroom of a nail salon. I'm just saying, like, I gave to her and she gave to me, and she's still very much my sister. And so there it was really developing comedies. My background is loving comedy. I went over to Gold Circle, which is a buyer. I did a movie called Because I Said So. They did My Big Fat Greek Wedding also. So my background is comedy, loving comedy. I still have an absolute raging crush on Eddie Murphy. And then I went over to Imagine, which is a production company, but honestly, it's really more of a studio than anything, right? They have their own money somewhat. They get to make big fancy movies. It's a very interesting place to work. You learn a ton of stuff, and I made Frost Nixon over there. And I will tell you, after Imagine, because this business gets very, very challenging. I was turning 30, and I left, and I traveled, just me alone in my car. I had my BlackBerry because there were no iPhones then, and I lived in Buddhist monasteries for a while because I needed a break. And I didn't have like a breakdown, maybe not really, but I needed a break. And I think it's really, really important when we're in this business, and especially as writers, especially as creators, when we spend a lot of time kind of alone, or a lot of time sort of knocking on doors. I think it's incredibly important to take those moments and go away. I know traveling is not easy right now for any of us. We're all home. I have pajama bottoms on, just saying. But the idea just to get out and see other things and clear our heads and fill our story coffers. Okay. So came back and ran a company at Fox. And then now ended up over at DreamWorks TV, which is where I am now. And I make kids and family television, single cam, multicam, pretty much mostly comedies. Now, I say that because I always thought that scripted content, which is what I do, and I think probably what a lot of you guys do, yes, scripted content, I always thought was very, very separate from personal stories, right? Because we're making, maybe some things are based on an awesome article in Wired, right? Or maybe something is, based on, a book that's a memoir, like, sure. But it doesn't really have to do with us, right? Like, it's sort of like, it's a little bit separate. And 8 years ago, some of you guys know, I started this live show in LA called Don't Tell My Mother. The idea is that amazing talent tells true stories they wouldn't want their moms to know. And I say this because I was missing the immediacy of creating something. And I will tell you, I was missing live theater. And I think live theater, why do so many playwrights become screenwriters? Because there's a way that playwrights know character, and there's an immediacy where we can think on our feet, right? We can change things. Oh, that bit doesn't work, we'll try something else. And I missed that. And I missed writing, and I missed performing. And I started this thing. And I thought at the time, this is very separate. My scripted life, is there. And that's where I get to use the brain that's completely making things up out of whole cloth. And then there's the telling true stories, Don't Tell My Mother piece, where I get to work with all kinds of wonderful artists, celebrities, this and that, to call on their real stories. And I have to tell you guys, it was a total epiphany, because I realized that it is our real stories. And I'm talking to all of you guys here as writers. I work with writers obviously all the time, every day. I love you guys. It is our real stories that are truly like our greatest war chest. And I'm going to get into why. So I don't know about you guys. I was told, as a, neurotic Jewish girl, that like I've been too much my whole life. Can anyone relate to that? You're too much. Yes. Thank you. And I will say this because as artists, that is our job. That is our goddamn job. I curse a lot, but I blame the queens. That is our job. It is our job to be us. And you know what? If people want to, yes, if you are too much, I applaud you. And that's why I asked you in the beginning of this class, bring your whole selves here. Whatever that looks like, that is needed in this group today. That energy is needed in this group today. And you probably need to just be here. So I was told I was too much, and I had to like rein it in. And especially as an executive, you're supposed to be a certain way, right? And I was never that way. And there is a wonderful performer, writer, genius named Broadway star named Alexandra Billings. And Alexandra Billings, some of you may know, she actually had the first trans role in Wicked, but also she was on the fabulous show Transparent. She plays a really fantastic character called Davina. And Alexandra was my teacher at Steppenwolf, actually, and she taught something that I will never forget that I want to impart to you, which is people say less is more, right? And that's kind of like we grow up hearing that less is more, less is more. And she says, and I 100% agree, less is not more, less is less. That's like math. I'm not even good at math, but I can promise you that less is actually literally less. This is a peach. I take a piece of the peach off, and now I just have less. There's not more of my peach. There's less of my peach. You put the peach back. So I say that because less is not more, less is less, and it is our job to be our entire selves. I see there's questions. I'm going to take them at the end. How do we bring our entire selves into our creative process? Now, when you're a banker or you're, I don't know, a gardener or whatever, maybe people think they don't need to bring their full selves. I actually disagree with that too. But I will say, as artists, it is 100% our job to bring our full selves to this work. Now, just a tiny bit of backstory about television. As you guys know, and we all know, TV used to look the same, right? Like very homogenous. If we look at the sitcoms from the 80s, from the 90s, you'll see a very common thread. It's often white families, often, middle class, well-to-do, middle class, I'd say, straight, I'd say. And there was a feeling that any character from one show could be lifted into another show, right? Like if you just imagine, kind of put your your mashup hats on for a second, like, okay, so we could say maybe Seinfeld could have made an appearance on Everybody Loves Raymond as Ray's long lost Jewish cousin Jerry from Frank's side. Like that is a plausible like mashup show, right? We could see that. And that's because, sitcom writers, it used to be really almost exclusively, I'm not going to make a rule here, but pretty much, cis white men, from the Harvard Lampoon. We can look at Seinfeld for that. We can look at Curb. And the truth is, shows often look alike because they wrote what they knew, which dovetails right into what I'm going to talk to you guys about today and what we're already talking about. And with the advent of cable and then, of course, streamers, so many more and different stories can be told. And that means so many more different writers to tell them. By the way, I want to say, because I teach at SAG too, and I teach actors all the time, same can be true of actors. But we all know that things start in the writer's room. They start really with the creator, actually, but then they go into the writer's room, okay? So thank God, we're in this cool time where we can watch all these different shows with all these different stories. Let's just bring up a few so we can have a couple of examples on our brain. So Fleabag, I'm sure many of you are Fleabag, watchers. I am too. Fleabag, right? So what's it about? Well, Fleabag, I would say, is about sort of a sexually free, kind of miserable, misanthropic somewhat woman in London who talks to her dead friend. I'm giving very, very top line log lines here. Insecure, right? Follows the awkward experiences and kind of daily tribulations of a single Black woman in LA. Sex Education, one of my absolute favorite shows. A British comedy about an awkward teenage virgin who becomes a self-proclaimed sex therapist. And lastly, a show that I finished about a month ago that I highly recommend, Unorthodox. And Unorthodox is very interesting. It's a 4-episode story of an Orthodox Jewish girl who escapes Williamsburg and moves to Berlin. And part of this show is in Yiddish, right? So how interesting is this? I mean, I don't know about you guys. I'm, roughly 40, and I did not grow up with any shows like this. I didn't grow up with anything like this. And I will tell you, I was listening to a WGA panel because I love the panels that WGA puts on. And I want to thank, by the way, the WGA for having me today. And I was listening to a WGA panel, and the showrunner of Insecure, asked the question, what am I missing from this writer's room? What don't we have? Dustin, can you throw up the next slide? Great. So before people, and when I say people, I can say myself, but it's sort of true in general. Before people, executive studios, whatever, buy from you, they buy into you. So we always think of like, what is our, what's the log line of our project? You can pull that slide, Dustin. Just so I know really quick, and because I never like to assume things or people to get stuck on something. Is there everyone here fairly familiar with what a log line is, right? We all know what a log line is. Cool. So, it's a brief, 1-sentence summary of your television show, your program, your book, your project, and it provides the synopsis of like the plot and kind of the hook of it all, right? And so we're used to saying, okay, here's the log line of my project. Here's the elevator pitch of my show. But what I want to focus with you guys on today, and what I care about more than that, because I assume, hopefully rightfully, that if you guys have a project, you have vetted and worked on what your log line is, so that if you ran into someone in the elevator, or you go in for your meeting, or you email someone, you know how to make a compelling one-line pitch for your project. I assume you guys all know how to do that. If not, that's a different class. But what I think is actually just as important, and to be honest, more so, is what is the log line of yourself? And when I say that, I mean, how are you, anybody on this line, Janice or, Andra, Colin, how are you uniquely suited to writing the project that you have? or/and how are you uniquely suited to being a writer on a project that already exists? So very much back to that WGA, the guy who, you know, runs Insecure, you know, is what don't we have in this room? And why are you, right? Why are you, Tracy? Why are you the one who is so perfectly suited to write it? Prentice Penny is the showrunner. Thank you. So it's interesting because, you know, I sort of like hate sales, but at the same time, you know, I have to remember, and we all have to remember that no matter what we're doing, we are selling ourselves. And now more than ever, it is about being, you know, kind of what makes us unique, weird, different, right? The doors have flung open, and that's really helped by all these platforms that are coming up like weeds, you know, which is actually a great thing. But the desire for different and interesting stories has never been so strong. And I want to quote, I love Brene Brown. I don't know if you guys read Brene Brown. She wrote Daring Greatly. She wrote, I just finished The Power of Vulnerability. But I will share a quote with you that I have to keep reminding myself, and I ask you guys to write down and keep somewhere by your screen, in your bathroom, wherever. Ready? We can either walk into the stories of our lives and own them, or stand outside our stories and hustle for our worthiness. So what's it going to be? Like, what's it going to be? We either stand outside our stories and feel like, oh God, you know, I'm going to speak from my experience. I grew up in a hoarder household. This is 100% true. I grew up in a hoarder household. There was grass so tall you could barely see out the window. We had cars stacked up in a driveway. That is stuff I was horribly embarrassed about. I'm still embarrassed about it. That's a real thing. You know, that is a real thing. And we all have that stuff, you know, and it's like, I could do that. Or I can say, yeah, that's right. I grew up in a hoarder household before hoarders was cool. I mean, this is pre-TLC shit, guys, okay? And I know that, so I can relate to Shameless, and I get that. I know what it's like to not find my gym shorts, all that stuff, okay? And the idea is, as opposed to running from the stuff that makes us who we are, I mean, this is such a beautiful tapestry of people that I'm looking at right now, and I'm only seeing, I think, like 1/6 of you right now or something. How do we get in and own that? Because if we own our stories, we get to write the ending. So as writers, if we're not writing our own stories, what the hell are we doing? And to get to write the ending, we got to own all that messy, juicy stuff. Anybody who's been in a writer's room here knows that those writer's rooms are completely filled with people telling their true stories. And that is where Issa Rae, I love Insecure. Issa Rae talks about that all the time, you know, like that is the writer's room. Sex and the City, I used to love that show. All about, all right, what crappy date did you go on? Who stood you up? What's all that stuff? And you and me, you guys know this, we could sit here and we could sit and make a list of all that. I could say, what are the 10 most embarrassing things that have happened to you? Or what are 10 things you're ashamed of? And I will tell you, you might resist me at first, but 5 minutes, no, not even, after a minute, you will have a list. You will have a list, you will be able to fill a notebook page. And that's like the best thing. That is like your grotto of goodies. And, you know, I will say, give you my personal example here. So, my name is Nikki, right? You know, I am, you know, a lesbian Jew from Queens who grew up with a crazy family, and my only escape was hiding in the bookshelf and watching Eddie Murphy movies. Needless to say, I gravitate towards dysfunctional family comedies. Okay, that is my truth here. So, lots of yelling in my house, hid in a bookshelf. I was very small, so I hid. There was a built-in bookshelf, so I hid between the highest shelf and the ceiling, and I would just hide there, you know. And I would read, and I'd make up stories. And when I wasn't doing that, I was watching Coming to America on repeat. Best movie ever. Wow. So I love, and I am uniquely suited to write and develop dysfunctional family comedies. I could never develop a show that took place like in the South and have this whole kind of, waspy edge. There are wonderful people with that. That's just not my story, and I don't know that world. But I can tell you what I do know, and you know what you know. Yes? You're with me? Great. So I'm going to have you guys, this is where it gets very interactive. So I'm going to have you guys share a little bit about me. We're going to call on people. And what I want you to do is, and you guys can like write this down, is what I want you to do is I want you to tell me, and I'm going to speak directly, and I'm just going to do it by raised hands. So I don't know any of you. I'm just going to pull people as they do a raised hand thing. But I want you to tell me the kinds of things you write. And when I say that, I mean, hi, my name is, Paul Vicnair. I write I like gravitate towards dramedies in the vein of Afterlife. I'm making this up. Okay, so and then I'm going to ask you specifically about your childhood, and we're going to go a little bit deep. So that's how it's going to be, and then we're going to come up with log lines, and then we're going to talk a little bit more. And I think it's Dustin. I think Dustin, you said we're going to save questions for the end. But what I'm hoping is, obviously, there's 300 people on this call, but we're going to be able to choose, 3 or 4 folks, get a sense of that, of kind of how to do it by watching people. Okay. So let me pull up my chat and see who's doing a raised hand so that I can see. One new message. Okay, Eva De Gregorio is the first person I saw. So Eva, Dustin, can you unmute Eva, please? And Eva, thank you for being brave.
Hi, thank you for doing this. It's amazing.
Oh, hi, Eva.
Hi. So, my name is Eva De Gregorio. I'm originally from Venezuela. I've been living in LA now for 5 years, and before that I was living in Australia. But I find that most of the things that I tend to write about is very dark stuff, but with some comedy on it. And a little bit of a mix of like horror as well. So I tend to write a lot about serial killers, even though I come from a country where there aren't that many serial killers. It's just more regular kind of killers and thieves and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So
tell me what shows, Eva, you give me. I need specific examples from you.
Like shows that I enjoy, or
yes, you would if such and such show had a writer's room that was available, you would say, Nikki, these shows, oh yeah, this is my wheelhouse.
So definitely Big Mouth will be one of them. The
Big
Boys.
Mouth.
Yeah.
Not a lot of serial killers in that show though.
Yeah. But I do enjoy The Boys and Mindhunter.
Okay. I think those are very different. So Mindhunter I haven't seen. Big Mouth to me is like really zany, super comedy, kind of coming of age.
Yeah.
Tell me which. Oh, go ahead.
I feel like he still has a lot of dark humor because he's pretty much looking at like people going through puberty, but from a very like real and dark and like, look, this is how it is. But because I mean, they even show you like you getting your period, but they're doing it from like a funny perspective.
I want to separate the Big Mouth and the Mindhunter because I think because you would be talking differently if you were going up for a job for a Big Mouth than if you would going up for a job for Mindhunter.
Okay.
So does that make sense though?
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay because we get to have different log lines for different kinds of genres that we write. You 100% get to have like your horror genre, your comedy genre. Which one do you want to focus on today? The more kind of Big Mouth, kind of more coming of age, balls out, dark humor, or more kind of serial killery kind of?
I guess the serial killer one, because the original I'm working on is definitely more in that wheelhouse.
More a wheelhouse? Okay. So do me a favor, tell me a log line for Mindhunter because I actually don't watch it.
So the show is about how the FBI created their behavioral unit to, you know, catch serial killers. So they go to several prisons and they interview serial killers.
Okay, so it's very cerebral.
Mm-hmm.
Very cerebral. And what about it do you love? What about that genre do you love? That serial killer genre? What is it that you like?
It's just, again, it's not like I'm a serial killer. I enjoy serial killers, but to me, it's just fascinating how someone can someone can just kill someone else, and especially in like those very graphic and horrible ways.
Yeah. So do you like Killing Eve? Is that something you like too?
I started watching it and I didn't continue, but it was interesting. Okay. So kind of seeing like how like they just don't have that what's the word I'm looking for? My God, I blanked out.
That's okay, but it sounds like so it sounds like what you're interested in is, and by the way, you never have to worry at all about someone thinking you're a serial killer, because I hope if you write on a serial killer show that you absolutely love serial killers in that way, that you're fascinated. You never have to qualify it, ever. Because I don't want a writer who's going to be qualifying their thing. I want a writer who's going to be all in.
Yeah.
Right? You would too, of course. That's probably why you like the show. So tell me about your growing up. What's your deal? You grew up in Venezuela.
Yeah, so I grew up in Venezuela in a single, I grew up with my mom, but I still lived with several family members. I'm estranged from my dad. Mm-hmm. So my childhood was good, but because of my dad's abandonment, then growing up, I was always looking for people's approvals and stuff. I definitely dealt with self-esteem issues.
Yeah.
And then when I was surrounded by people all the time, and we're Latinos, so we're loud.
Yeah.
So I went from being surrounded by a group of people, and then I moved to Australia, where I'm completely by myself in the other side of the world, and trying to experience, growing up, becoming an adult, and independence and all that. So.
Got it.
Yeah.
So. Were you a kid growing up with all these people around? Were you around? Were you, say, different family members? Were you living in different people's houses, or always in your house, but there was just people coming in and out?
So when I was 3, my mom and I moved with one of her boyfriends to another state, and we were living there. But then something happened with that relationship, which I don't really want to get into. Then we moved back to we lived with my grandma for a while up until I was 12, and then my mom and I moved on our own. But the thing is, my mom had me when she was 23, and she had to pretty much pay for everything, and she had to be working all the time. I was brought up by my grandpa, my grandma, everyone.
Eva, can I ask you a weird question? And I'm going to push, so you can push back, but it's my job to push. Is there, and I don't know anything that happened with your mom's ex, but from what you're saying about Mindhunter and a couple other things you said, I'm gonna really push, so know that. Is there something about the dark side of men that's fascinating?
Never thought of that.
Mm-hmm. You were being vague about what happens, and I want you to stay vague because you want to stay vague, but I do want to ask, I'm pushing because I want to get into what really is hitting that, because I'm going to stop you for 1 second, Eva, while you're thinking. Uh-huh. And if we could always move on to someone else, by the way, if you don't want to be put on the spot. But because what we're doing is, when we get to share a part of us, and we only share what we want to share, right? That's the difference between something that's, oh my God, I'm sharing something because I want someone to have a certain reaction, or I'm sharing something from my place of, I'm firm. I'm the tree here. I don't give a shit how you react, but I'm telling you my story. I'm cool with it. Okay? Yeah. Because when we share a part of ourselves, and I'm getting that deep because Eva is very brave for going first. Eva, you're getting a lot of props. Because when we go that deep, right, what you're saying is you're revealing part of yourself. And what that's saying is, I get this world, and here's why I get this world. Here's why I'm your girl, right? I get this world. And I'm fascinated because of a certain reason.
Got it.
I grew up with my mom. She had a lot of boyfriends. I got to see the good things of men, and I got to see this really seedy underbelly that I have to tell you, it's fascinating. And you don't have to even make a judgment. It's fascinating. And the way men's minds work or Eva, there's also the idea of, you know, because there are always people, I'm an introvert, I'm gleaning things. You didn't say that. But I spent a lot of time thinking about all the different people in my house and how everyone has different motivations. And some people, what you see is what you get. And some people are very secret. And so that secret inner life of people is endlessly fascinating to me.
Yeah.
And that's why I gravitate towards shows like Mindhunter, like because I spent a lot of time around a lot of people looking at, exploring, studying how people think.
I mean, I guess, like, again, it's not like I had like a dark childhood, but I did have moments when I was growing up where, like, I mean, the incident with my mom's boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, then like I am strange from my dad, but it's not like I know him or anything, but like there's moments of violence of like him with his family that I experienced when I was little. And the sad thing too is, like, in Latin America, there's also a lot of like domestic violence. So
I know, I spent some time.
I didn't experience that in my house at all. Like, I'm able to say that, but for instance, when my mom and I moved to on our own when I was 12, like I was surrounded by people where, like, the neighbor downstairs like used to yell at his kids in a way that like I could hear it through the walls, like the guy going like, "Open the door," and the kids out of their minds.
Yeah, so, and Eva, I'm going to say this just because I want to make sure we get to other people. That is a very valid and also very unique, not unique, very universal. That's what I wanted to say. Very universal experience. I know Latin America is you're pointing to a specific thing and a specific way you grew up, which I think is great because that's on your side. But, you know, people growing up everywhere, I think if you brought that up, that's a very universal, right? Everybody here, we could nod our heads if we have any experience with that. We know anybody who have. This is not unusual, right? Unfortunately. So you can say, and these are pretty much what you just said, and I like to take notes so I can repeat things back to people when they say things. But, you know, growing up in Latin America, there is a lot of domestic violence. And I knew a lot of people, my neighbor below, and that world and that thinking and the energy that creates is very salient on my mind. So I am I'm very familiar with the workings and the machination of violence. And while I hate it, unfortunately, I know about it.
Yeah.
And so these types of shows like blank, blank, blank are something there. It's in my blood. I can speak to that. Yes?
Yeah. And I guess also, I could also pitch it in a way that, like, and from like a Latin perspective where, like, again, there's a lot of killing in Latin America, but not in the serial killing way that it's more prominent here.
And I would say to you, Eva, try not to draw the distinction. I mean, you can if you want to, but the point is, yes, you're right about that. Like, for anyone who knows Brazil, Venezuela, like, yes. I mean, we just read about it all the time, unfortunately. And that, unfortunately, right, it's terrible. That is a part of your upbringing of a world and unfortunately a normal, right, that you know. And so, of course, you would be gravitating towards a show like Mindhunter or a number of other shows that have that. You know it in a way maybe most people or other people don't. And I think that's a very important thing that you can bring up. I'm going to move on because we have a lot of people.
No, thank you so much.
Yeah, I want to thank you for being so brave. I hope I didn't push you too much. But again, I'm thinking of in service of everybody, right? Because always, and I teach this all the time, but the general is the specific, Eva. So you had your story, right, about your mom and da-da-da. But, you know, Bella might have a different thing that because you said that, Sarah thinks of her story, right? And Sarah maybe didn't have that exact experience, but because of your specifics, she gets to remember her specifics.
Got it. Awesome.
Thank you. I'm going to put you on. Yeah, I'm going to put you on mute. Oh my God, so many people. I'm literally picking people at random here. Let's do, I don't know. Wendy B. Sorry, I wish I have some sense of who, I guess it's good that I don't know who people are. Wendy B.
Hi.
Hi, Wendy B.
Hi there. This
Nikki.
is fantastic. I'm
Thanks.
just, look, notes, tons of notes.
Oh yeah, I will just say, Wendy B and everybody else, I am a huge, like, I'm not even joking around, real pen or pencil and real pages for writing. Always
Yes.
first drafts, always on this. And when I take notes, because when I listen to people, I write in a book because it can't go away. All right, I can't edit myself on a computer. Oh, that person said they didn't mean it. Blah, 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 it's gone. No, it's not gone. It's here. It's here, right here in this book. All right, Wendy B, tell me what shows or movies you gravitate towards. Let's start there.
Schitt's Creek. I
Great,
just
I love
love
Schitt's Creek.
Schitt's Creek. And here to the extreme, Ozark, although I can't watch it by myself. And the reasons for that is I love people being kind of like a fish out of water reacting to external stimulus. Like they think they're being gaslighted, you know, like the external situations are gaslighting them, but they're really okay. But they don't feel okay and they don't act okay. Like Jason Bateman, you know, his reaction to his wife, to the town, to everything that's going on where he lives, and also Eugene Levy, the same way in Schitt's Creek. Like their reaction to what's going on outside. I gravitate toward that.
Explain, and I might have missed this, but what about it is it the fish out of water? Is that what it is for both? Because I just started Ozark. Schitt's Creek I love. Like, I live for that show. Is it the fish out of water of it all, or what is it for you?
Yeah, because my story is I'm always the fish out of water in a traditional environment that makes me crazy. And I'm like, why am I not like these people?
Yeah. How I think that's very relatable, by the way. I mean, I think I would say most of your friends on this call would probably agree. What about, because both of those shows, Schitt's Creek and Ozark, different tonally. Ozark is obviously very dark. Schitt's Creek is a comedy, but they're both absolutely fish out of water, for sure. What is it about the fish out of water? Like, how did you grow up fish out of watery, or how do you feel fish out of watery?
I grew up in Florida, very white, very traditional, no gays. And I was a little nuts. Like, I was very creative. I had a vivid imagination. I liked people. And so that wasn't how I grew up. And it wasn't until I got older that I realized and moved to Los Angeles that there was a whole world out there that was colorful and gay. And
are you gay? Is that why you didn't?
Bisexual, yeah. But
cool. Okay.
I say, see, this is interesting because I have a TV show that I created called My Sister Is So Gay. That's based on my denial of being gay. And so the sister is gay. So the brother thinks my sister is so gay, but she's in complete denial.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. But so you grew up Florida, like, okay. And how did you not fit in? Sexuality piece.
Yeah, I like girls and their secrets. So I'm always writing about like secrets.
Okay.
Dysfunctional family secrets.
And how else, and that this may be the big thing. I mean, how else were there any other ways that you felt like you did not fit in? The sexuality piece is a huge one. That might be enough, by the way. I just want to make sure we're turning over the other stones.
I didn't feel like I looked like the other pretty girls, the cheerleaders.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like I could I don't know, my parents were like high achievers and I just didn't feel that.
Yeah. Did people think you fit in with them, or was it apparent you didn't?
People thought so. But so what I was presenting to the world and what I was inside, two different things.
Right.
Yeah.
I just said, I don't know why, because I've never asked that to someone before, but I just sort of knew that about you. Like, you could pass almost, right?
Always pass.
Is that a weird thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes it juicier, I will say, because I felt like I didn't fit in, but it was like very apparent. Okay. So, like, you're not fooling anybody. So, okay.
I like that. I looked like I fit in, but inside I was a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah. So I'm going to take a stab here. Okay.
Okay.
For a minute, Wendy. You know, my name is Wendy. You know, my name is Wendy. I grew up in Florida in a very white, I'm making things up. You're going to have to change this. Okay, Wendy. My name is Wendy. I grew up in Florida in a very, upper class, white and straight neighborhood, right? I'm going to say close knit. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was, and yet I was secretly and closetedly queer, knew I was different than everyone else, and yet I looked like I fit in perfectly. I had a secret inner life and yet a very quote unquote normal outer life. And so I gravitate towards shows that are fish out of water and that relish the comedy of it. Shows like Schitt's Creek, and then darker shows like Ozark. But both hit that same you don't quite belong chord, right? So that, if you said that to me, Wendy, I'm so interested, because now I'm like, oh my God, like, wow, Wendy must have really been performing a real juggling act. Like, people think she's this, I'm gonna make this up, kind of like this, I don't know, sporty, kind of like pretty white girl. And yet she's queer, and she's having a completely different, she's crushing on the blah, blah, blah girl, when meanwhile the blah, blah, blah guy thinks they're chilling, right? And so it's that interesting way to kind of go under the radar. And that is such a compelling character, and it's such a compelling dynamic. So now I'm like, oh, Wendy gets that. Wendy gets that from the inside.
Yes.
Thank you, Wendy. I'm going to move on just because of time, obviously.
Thank you.
But awesome. You did such a good job. You guys are the best. Who else? Oh, man. All these people. Can people just literally raise their hand? Is that a possibility? Literally raise their hand. Okay, I'm going to do Mason. Mason, you want to, or Dustin, can you unmute Mr. Mason? Thank you, Mason.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hi, everyone. This is the most people I've ever Zoomed with in my life. This is nerve-wracking. My name's Mason. I mainly write a lot of sci-fi. I geared towards dramedy.
Towards what?
And dramedy.
Sci-fi dramedy?
Yes.
What are examples? Tell me examples, specifics.
Well, I guess it's sci-fi with a dramedy tone. Like I love The Boys, The Magicians. I also love Sex Education, The Expanse.
Mason, you're cutting out a little for me. So Sex Education. Mm-hmm.
The Magicians.
Don't know that show.
Lev Grossman. It's super great. It's like an adult Harry Potter if they could say fuck and live in New York.
Ah, I should see it. I love that.
The Expanse, Altered Carbon, things like that.
Is The Magicians, I'm not a sci-fi person, by the way. Is The Magicians and The Expanse, are they funny? Or are they more dramatic?
The Expanse is definitely more kind of epic in terms of plot and complexity, more political, but Magicians is definitely witty. Definitely funny.
Yeah, and what about these shows? You're giving me all these great shows to watch, by the way. I mean, not that I don't have a huge list already, but what about these shows are you excited about? Like, what do you like about them?
Well, I'll use Magicians because I think that kind of like marries together what I'm talking about. Yeah. I've always loved like sci-fi. Like as a kid, I grew up gay, Southern Virginia, Southern Baptist family. Okay. The only people that were out in my high school were like the only male cheerleaders ever to be on the team. And that's just, that wasn't what I wanted to be labeled as. So, but people thought it was funny. And I realized in an early age that if I was funny, then people wouldn't question if I was gay. So it became
how come you didn't want to be like the cheerleaders? Because that was like way too on the nose. It just wasn't like you.
Just like, I don't feel like I'm like that much of a typecast. Like
right. You're like, I'm gay, but I'm not that gay. Okay,
like
got you.
Be a queen, but I'm also a king at the same time.
Oh, Mason, you're a sweetheart. Okay,
so
got it. So Southern Baptist family.
And so sci-fi was huge for me, and I would always use that as an escape. And I loved things like Magicians, where people have gifts or these special abilities, but I like when they're integrated with people finding themselves and like dealing with their own their own trauma and finding strength and power in that. And that's because the powers are correlated with that in their experience.
Is the Magicians, it really sounds like a good show. Is the Magicians like, do you know, would you on the outside know that they were these kind of fantastic, powerful people?
No, they're very much, they have in their world, yes,
No.
but like to regular people, they don't know magic exists.
So like almost like a Superman-y, for lack of a better whatever, but like, right. So it's sort of like hidden. Oh, okay. So this makes sense. So, so there's an idea, and again, it's like as storytellers, right? We're always pulling threads together to make some cool braids, right? Right. So is it fair to say, / accurate to say that there's a fascination with, it's almost like what's making me think of Mason is the idea that like people are so much more powerful and more complex than they seem, and that somebody may seem a certain way, but they have this whole wealth of abilities.
Yeah.
Secret powers, maybe. Well, that makes me think of you, because literally you're telling me like, oh, like I grew up, Southern Baptist family. I'm assuming they were not super supportive of the gay thing, maybe right away.
Not at first, but they changed over time.
Yeah. Were you able to be out at school?
No, I didn't come out till I ran up to DC and went to George Mason and came out when in college.
Okay. So let's just hone in on this, Mason. So there's something, and this makes like literally, I think every bit of sense to probably everybody on this call listening to. It's like, yeah, you may see me and think one thing, almost a little like Wendy. You may see me and think one thing, but you don't know this rich inner life that I have. You don't even know what's coming. Like I can seem, nice boy Mason who's really funny, and that's going to distract you. But I have a whole secret, fabulous power happening.
Yeah.
Right. So that fascinate. What'd you say, babe?
People are a lot more deep than, we give each other credit for.
Oh, of course. And isn't that the most fun? Finding that out? So let's just try this, Mason, on for size. And you have to write this out because you're going to want to edit and play with this. So like, hi, my name, Mason, where are you from, Mason?
Chesapeake, Virginia.
And you live there now, or you live here in LA?
I live in California. I'm in Long Beach.
Okay, cool. I'm in LA too. So, hey, my name is Mason. I grew up in Virginia in a Southern Baptist family as a closeted gay kid, passing as just a regular guy, distracting people with my humor, right? Because I had a secret. And I got very good at keeping secrets. And yet nurturing myself, nurturing my own secret. And so I love shows like The Expanse, Altered Carbon, The Magicians, where you may not realize the fantastic power of a character, and then they go and they blow you away. And those characters that have to reconcile seeming one way, but being something completely different is where my power is, because that's where my experience is. And the truth is, and I'm telling you this, Mason, as a gay person also, there is an incredible power in holding both things, right? Seeming one way and being another, and not, and yet nurturing even that secret part.
Totally.
I think that's very powerful, don't you?
Yeah.
Don't you think so? That's right. And so
that's why I like to
navigating both worlds, right? I think that's a very cool way into the kinds of stuff you like.
Thank you. I appreciate all of your feedback.
Of course. Nice work, everybody. You guys are the best. You guys are awesome. Yeah, everybody's clapping for you, Mason. Oh, you guys. Okay, let's do, I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to do most people, but did we do Desiree? No, right? Desiree? Okay, we'll do Desiree, and then I hope we have time for Brendan. But, let's see what we can, because I do want to reserve a few minutes for questions. Before actually we go to Desiree, I want to just say this because I want to make sure we have time for this, which is, I hope you guys are starting to kind of get a sense here of what we're doing. We're getting a sense, right? Because what we're doing is we're actually doing a threefold thing. Now, nobody's going to know this, by the way, except you, but I will tell you what the heck's happening. So number one, what we're doing is we're showing why this job, this project, this role, okay, right, this opportunity is exactly our cup of tea, right? So we're sharing like, yeah, like this is why Schitt's Creek, why I get that fish out of water, right? Like we're literally showing like, yes, I understand. I'll speak for myself. Like I understand, you know, I know what it, you know, I get Shameless or let's do Shameless. I get Shameless because I come from this crazy dysfunctional family. So like I lived it, I know it, I still have it. You know what I mean? They're back east, but talk to them too much, you know, right? I still live it. You know, you can take the kid out of the hoarder, but you can't take the hoarder out of the kid. Okay. So we get that, right? So we're saying our truth and why it works for us. But and we're also showing that we can tell a story because as we said earlier with the Brene Brown quote, we are literally telling the story of ourselves in such an encapsulated way. We are quickly showing we can tell a story. We're freaking storytellers. We can tell a story. We can get you with our own life story in 30 seconds. I'm going to nab you just with this. Okay. Thirdly, though, and this to me is the kind of the almost the most sneaky, but to me, 100% the most interesting, which is, and this is a very like, it's a very 12-steppy thing for anybody in 12-step world is, you know, when someone is very honest with us and very vulnerable and not in a yucky way where they're like oversharing and we feel like grossed out, but like when they're honestly like vulnerable with us, we can't really hate them. You just can't. Like you kind of like people when they're vulnerable because it's very hard to be vulnerable. So you may not like think someone is like the best, or they may not be your cup of tea, and they may not be someone that, you know, you want to go and get a bite with, but you have to like them in some way or love them in some way because they're honest with you. So, and again, that's in the way of we do it owning our story, not in the way of, oh my God, this stuff happened and it's my journal entry. But it's like, it's sharing in a way that is strategic because it makes someone connect with you. Because if I'm telling you guys something about myself, you probably, most of the time, I'd say 95% of the time, you're going to then reveal something back to me. And then we have a connection. And that connection, you know, I may never even remember what we talked about, by the way, but I'll 100% remember that, you know, Melissa and I, like, oh, we really kind of had that connection when she was sitting on my couch for that general meeting. Yeah, like I liked her. Like I liked her because I get her, because she told me stuff that I didn't know about her. So she's cool. She's cool. I like her. I get it. Okay, you get what I'm saying? So there's like a threefold thing. So like we're saying, why are we so right for this? But we're being vulnerable. And I really think that like there is something important, especially right now where people do feel very alone and there's a lot of unknowns, like so many unknowns right now. There is something really, I think it's like we're ready for realness. You know, I mean, as writers, we have to bring our whole selves to a project. And I think a lot of us, and I definitely feel this way and speak from experience, try to create the distance of, oh, I should be a certain way, or I should be blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm not saying don't be professional, but like, be you. Because are there probably better writers? For sure. We're in a world of wonderful, talented people. But are there people who can, I'm assuming everyone here is a, you know, good enough writer. And I say it really honestly. But if you can bring yourself and you're going to bring your vulnerability, then you're bringing something that someone else does not. I'd say a lot of people don't. And it counts for a lot. Okay, so we were going with one person.
Desiree is live.
What'd you say?
Desiree is live.
Yes. Yeah. Hi, Desiree. What's up?
Hi. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
That last thing you said started me crying. You know, about the distance.
Yeah.
And because I've been writing a long time, and I was taking a lot of notes, and it's like, I don't write anything that matches things that I love and enjoy. I think I've maybe written 2 things that actually match what I love and enjoy.
Yeah.
You know, and it's I guess because when I got to LA, I was like, because I love writing for children, and it's like everybody's like, oh, you need to write this sci-fi, you need to write this horror, you need to write this drama, and I keep trying to write drama, and it's like,
yeah,
you know, it's like I go to bed watching cartoons.
I'm going to tell you something, Desiree. Do you ever go to theater? Do you like theater?
I love theater.
Okay, so I do too, and I miss theater terribly right now. And do you ever been to a show where and this could even be stand-up comedy, by the way, but let's say theater. You ever go to a show where you're just like, oh my God, this actor is having so much fun? Like,
yes.
Yeah. And you ever been to a show where the actors taking themselves like a wee bit too seriously?
Oh yeah.
Which example keeps you at the edge of your seat? Which one?
The one where I don't even see the actor and I am so engaged in it, I don't even see how much time has passed. Yeah,
because they're having fun, right?
Yes.
It's the worst, like me sitting in an audition and watching an actor who's like so in their own head, and then watching an actor who's like having the best time and could really, I call it, because I call it doing the 9th take. They're like, it's in the can, I'm going to come and do something fun. So that's what I like. I know that's what you like, because that's what we like, right? When people have fun, we have fun. That's just the end of it. Like, boom, done, bye. So I will just give you permission, not that I have to give you any permission, but like, in case you need it, like, if you write something fun, I promise you, the person on the other side of reading it will have fun. Because it's too hard to not be ourselves. It's just very tiring. And honestly, I think I'm over it. I think everybody's over it. Like, it's just enough. It's enough already. So what shows do you like? Sounds like you like cartoons, which is awesome.
I do.
What do you like?
I love We Bare Bears.
We Bare Bears?
Yes.
What is
they're
it
like
even
three
about?
There's 3 bears. And
Bears?
I love Polar Bear, the favorite. Yes, because Polar Bear speaks in the 3rd person. Polar Bear wants ice. Polar Bear would like to... And it cracks me out.
Yeah, Polar Bear. Yeah, I don't know We Bare Bears, but is this what's the age group of the show? Like kids?
Yes, I would say elementary, upper elementary.
So is it educational or no?
No.
No. Okay, no. So it's okay, that's cool. So it's kids. It's a kids show.
Yeah.
Cool.
But then I also love I love The Hollow, which they just came out with the 2nd season on Netflix. That one's really good. It's like have you seen The Maze Runner?
I actually haven't.
Okay. Well, Hunger Games.
Okay. Yep.
So like a younger type of Hunger Games.
Okay, so like kind of YA dystopian. I love Hunger Games. I've read the books too.
Yes.
So one of the books. So We Bare Bears is comedy.
Yes.
Hunger Games, I would not say was comedy.
No.
I'd probably say it's like YA, kind of YA dystopian. Does that feel? Or not really?
And it's it is YA dystopian.
Okay. Do you like Steven Universe?
I love Steven Universe.
Okay, I do too.
I loved Gravity Falls.
Oh, I love Gravity Falls. Okay. Love it. I mean, literally love it. Okay. So, Desiree, tell me why. Why do you like these things?
It's like 2 things. I guess because I also paint, so it's like visually it draws me in. And I love the vulnerability of the characters. Like, even though you know they shouldn't do it, they do it anyway. But then watching them get out of their mistakes, and then how they help each other. I love how they help each other.
Desiree, did you grow up in a strict home?
Oh yes.
I know you did. You know why I know you did?
No.
But I know you did, but I took a guess. I could have been completely wrong. You could have been like, you know what? You are 100% wrong. No, I wondered if you grew up in a strict home because the cool thing about animation, I've obviously done animation too, but like, the thing about animation and like the shows you mentioned, like Steven Universe, Gravity Falls, We Bare Bears, I don't know that show, but is like, it's almost like there's no rules in animation. And of course there is, but like anything's possible because it's animation. You can get away with so much, and there's almost a sneakiness to it. Like,
I didn't think about that.
You can do it in animation, right? Like, oh, it's animation. Yeah. Oh, okay, it's animation. Oh, okay. Yeah. They can swing on a tree. They can jump on a moon. Oh, I get you. So I'm going to do this quickly because it's 1:07 and we're closing at 15, and I want like 5 minutes for questions if we can. But is it accurate at all, Desiree? And by the way, thank you for being so vulnerable. And I'm sorry this made you cry, but I'm also not, because sometimes I teach this and I cry, actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's a good thing. It's a good thing. So because it's almost like, why have I been holding this shit in for so long? What am I doing? It's a frustration.
Exactly. Yes.
I know. We're all there. So really, for real, we all are. You're not alone. So is it, and where'd you grow up, Desiree?
Oh, I grew up in Tennessee.
Okay. So, I'm going to be fairly vague only because we don't have the time to get into real specifics, but I want you to write this down. So you write it down and you can play with it. But, hey, my name is Desiree, Middleton. And, I grew up, in a very strict home in Tennessee. And then I want 1 or 2 examples, and I would want you to make them comedic. They may not have been comedic when it happened.
Okay.
But now it's going to be comedic, right? With perspective, we get comedy. Or alchemists, we turn pain into gold. It's our job. Okay. It's our job as creative people. So my name is Desiree Middleton. I grew up in a very strict home in Tennessee because bop. Right? I'm guessing it involves your mother because most of our shit does.
Yes, it does.
Of course it does. So, and I love writing brilliant, beautiful, and vulnerable and comedic animation. I gravitate towards things like We Bare Bears, Steven Universe, Gravity Falls, because it's all about the aches of the coming of age experience. But because it's animation, anything goes, and we can be as crazy, right? As crazy, as strange, as off the wall as we want. And we can even have lessons, and we can hide it in all the fun. And I should tell you, I also like animation because I'm also a painter. I do that for fun. And the visuality of animation speaks to that other side of my brain. Yeah, Desiree?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to close up questions. Oh, you guys are so sweet.
Thank you.
But I'm in a bad mood. I have to screenshot this chat, you guys. So I'm going to close up that, Desiree. You did an awesome job. I want to thank everybody for participating. Let's do 5 minutes of questiones. I do private lessons, just so you know. I'm doing this for you because WG, I just love you guys. But if those who didn't get to do it, just so you know, Enid could get my email address. But yeah, because I know how many people are we going to get to when there's 300 people on call. Do me a favor. Can you, Dustin or Enid, can you just call out some questions for me? Don't unmute people because I know we only have 4 minutes, but can you maybe call out a couple of questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people are asking for advice about about offering help to be a mentor, and like what should you be looking for in a mentor? How do you even approach someone to get that question? About, will you be my mentor? Like what does that process look like?
Yeah. Well, there's so many ways to do it. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I will say one way, and then I'm going to have to pivot off it really quick, because being, assisting someone, I mean, a lot of people don't have that flexibility, or they're like, I'm past that in my career. So like, of course, assisting someone is one thing, getting that gig, I'm just putting that on the shelf. Okay. But the other thing that I think is really cool is like, and I actually think this is a great time to do it, is like, if there are people whose writing you like, and by the way, this is like, I see people on this that, I see people's names on this that I know your work. I know you're amazing writers already. But like sometimes I feel like we all, and I feel this way too, by the way, we all have this thing of like, oh, like I'm at a certain level, I shouldn't need to ask for help, or it's weird for me to like befriend someone else who's doing what I'm doing because I'm supposed to be competitive. Fuck that shit. Like this is such a great time to like email someone, you know, if you can grab their email, or just DM them on Instagram. Like, hey, I have to tell you, like, home during the quarantine, watched your show, Sex Education. I actually DM'd the creator of Sex Education. She never wrote me back. I was like, I just DM'd her. I was like, I don't know. Apparently she didn't read it. But just like DM someone, you know, like, hey, like if you ever like want to like chat on the phone and get some thought, you know, chat on the phone, or like, hey, if I can ever be helpful to you. And this is, I guess, what I mean about like being helpful to people, because I tend to think that, like, you know, as humans and as people also in this business, it's like, what can I get? But I would just almost say, like, can we turn it around and like, what can I offer? Like, hey man, like I loved your show. If you ever need anything, hit me up, you know, like, I don't know how I could ever be helpful to you, or like, if you ever want to like grab coffee or chat on the phone or email or whatever, like, you know, I'm just so like, and here's why I liked, and this is where Loglines come in. Here's why I liked that show. And you share a little about yourself. Like, do it. Exactly what we just did today. Like, dude, I dig this. You and I might have had similar upbringings because ba. And just send a DM. And the truth is, maybe go into the ether and nothing will come of it. Sure. That's probable, by the way. But like, if not, like, you probably have made someone's day when they're literally sitting at home, smoking pot, watching Netflix, like doing nothing right now, or like feeling frustrated and lonely or whatever, however all of us are feeling right now. We have good days, we have bad days, we have days where it was just be nice to get a nice DM from someone like, oh my God, dude, I think your show's so great. I think you're so funny. I watched your old stuff. And do a little dive, you know, like do a deep dive, like, oh my God, like the Duplass brothers. I watched that funny short they did where like the guy was trying to record his own voicemail on his answering machine for 27 times. Like I watched the old stuff, dude. That was great. Send a note. I mean, that's like the best thing I can offer, but just don't do it. Here's what I need from you, because it's a big turnoff. And I will say people are very worried about their own stuff right now. So that, like, you know, doing that is just, I would say don't do that. Sorry to be like prescriptive, but like what you can offer is just a nicer way in, I think. Yeah, Instagram is a great way. You can all follow me, by the way, if you want, which is just at Nikki Levy, NIKKILEVY. Instagram is a great way to communicate with people. That's my best thought. And also, let me just say one other thing, which is like, you know, like Martin Scorsese always talks about this, like being a student of film, right? Like he's the teacher of film, but like he always talks about that he's still a student of film. And like, I just think this is such a great time where, well, you know, auditions aren't happening. Writers' rooms are obviously weird. I thought I just sold a big show, to be honest, and just found out before this call it can't happen because of all this quarantine stuff. So like it's a weird time, believe me. And I think this is a really good time to become a student of our craft, whether it's reading scripts that we, you know, the shows that we like, it's sitting there with the script and watching the show, it's reading books that are going to help us. Like, let's be a student now, you know, like let's absorb stuff, because we are just filling our little toolbox, guys, till we can get out there and like be in the world again. Yeah. Okay, I guess we have to end. Yeah, let me know how else I could be of service to you guys. And yeah, I'm happy to have been here with you guys. And yeah, follow me on Insta, at Nikki Levy. Oh, and you can also follow the Don't Tell My Mother, which is at Don't Tell My Mother. That's all the fun stuff too. Thank you for having me and for showing up and being so vulnerable. Oh my God, someone's from Mexico City, Salvador. I did my honeymoon in Mexico City. One of my favorite cities in the entire world. Oh my God, I love Mexico City. I mean, love Mexico City. All right, many thanks to everybody. You guys are the best.
Nikki, thank you so much for your insight. And thanks everyone for coming today. Stay safe out there. Keep writing, keep telling your stories.